Hi, I'm Erica.
Hi, I'm Emma.
Hi, I'm Lauren.
Hi, I'm Kira.
Welcome to our webinar series on doing sport differently to restore confidence in grassroots sport. These webinars have been developed in collaboration with Vicsport and VicHealth and the Centre for Sport and Social Impact at Trobe University. Trobe University proudly acknowledges the traditional custodians of the lands where our campuses are located in Victoria. We pay our respects to Indigenous elders past and present, and we recognise that Indigenous Australians have an ongoing connection to the land. We are going to start this webinar by telling you a little bit about us, how we came up with these principles, and why we have chosen confidence as the overarching theme. From there, we will spend 10 minutes focusing on one of the principles in more depth and how it could apply to you when you were thinking about how people participate in sport at your club. These principles initially relate to those who are participating in sport activities. However, they can be used just as easily when thinking about volunteers or social members. So who are we? The Centre for Sport and Social Impact is a research centre at La Trobe University. Over the past 10 years, we have worked with a diverse range of partners and collaborated with VicHealth and Sport Australia to take a much closer look at why people are dropping out of sport, why others don't start, and how a lot of traditional sport participants are now looking for more flexible and social options. We wanted to support the sport industry to adapt to all of these changes, and so based on our 10 years of research, we've come up with 6 starting principles that could guide thinking to design and deliver sport in a way that engages a larger and more diverse audience. These 6 doing sport differently principles sit at the very core of what we do, seeking to instigate change in order to get more people more active more often.
So Principle 3 is that participation should cater to different levels of skill, ability and fitness. So this principle is connected to the need to consider differences between participants and ensure that any opportunities we offer are tailored accordingly. So really the underlying idea behind this principle is that participants at each level of sport participation will have varying skills, abilities, levels of fitness and preferences around social interaction in sport and physical activity settings, which we really need to be mindful of and cater to. So at the crux of this principle is the idea that we need to cater for all, not just the traditionally sporty or kind of athletic types. So during this webinar, we're going to talk briefly about this and bring this principle to life by outlining 2 key barriers participants can experience and then demonstrate how really incorporating this principle into our practice can really help address these barriers. So these 2 critical barriers that are ongoing themes within our research in the Centre for Sport and Social Impact are having low confidence and experiencing a fear of judgment. So Paul will be talking more about confidence in the second half of this webinar, and I will talk more about judgment in the first half of this webinar. Basically, people can experience low confidence and have fears about judgment in relation to their ability, their appearance when exercising, or their level of fitness. So these factors can actually stop someone from starting or continuing their participation and actually negatively impact their enjoyment of the activities we're offering. So to talk a little bit more about the fear of judgment as a barrier, it actually occurs when people perceive that others are judging them. So it's connected really to the norms, the social norms we're exposed to in society, and the messages we receive about how we should look or behave. So fears around judgment broadly fit into 3 main categories, which are appearance, so how we look or behave when we are exercising or playing sport, our ability, so we might fear of judgment around our skill level or our level of fitness, and our priority. So if we're undertaking exercise or sport, when we feel like we should be doing something that is potentially more important or framed to be more important in our lives. So this is particularly pertinent for women in the context of families and childcare responsibilities. Women often feel judged for playing sport when they feel like they should be prioritising those other elements of their life. So fearing judgment and how it affects people, it can kind of make people feel embarrassed, intimidated or self-conscious, when actually can lead to participants reducing or stopping certain activities. It can also make people feel really reluctant to start or actually restart if they've had a bit of a break from sport. And this can happen to anyone at any point during their sport or physical activity journey and at any stage of their life, basically. So the solution to help participants feel less judged and make them feel more comfortable is really just applying Principle 3 and making it work for your context. So it's important to remember that people want to fit in. They don't want to look out of place. They don't want to feel out of place. So we need to ensure that the opportunities we're offering can be made suitable and tailored for everyone, which is why we need to kind of consider, that everyone has different levels of skill, ability and fitness. So in order to kind of put this into action, examples of how we can do this include having conversations with returning participants about what they feel capable of and comfortable with, changing the rules, the playing area, the duration of games, or scoring to suit each participant's skill or fitness level and ability, offering alternative activities or relevant variations to an activity so that participants can decide what they do and really how hard they push themselves. And also really alleviate worries about returning to the club environment both physically and socially. So physically making sure that these opportunities can be suitable for everyone, and socially really making sure that people feel welcome, they understand what they're meant to be doing in the club environment, the club context, and they know how to what the expectations are around those interactions with others. We also need to kind of observe and be aware of people's behaviour during sessions and what they seem able to do. And in the context of the COVID situation and what's been happening around that more broadly, it's important to kind of consider how you could potentially deliver some kind of pre-season. So people returning might not have been as active, they might not have had that opportunity to play sport. So rather than going straight into competition, think about how you could maybe tailor training to kind of allow them to build up that skill, build up their fitness first, potentially use some digital options. So could you maybe get some sort of online training happening before people return to the club environment, so they feel comfortable with where they're at and their skill and fitness level. It's also important to kind of make people feel like their needs are being catered for. So implement adequate injury prevention strategies. So ensure we're warming up, cooling down, allow drink breaks, making sure people have appropriate clothing and footwear, and also just make sure that there's a gradual build up of intensity so that all of these activities are suitable for everyone. So I think the key takeaways here around the fear of judgment in relation to the principle is to really be aware of the fear of judgment and how it can operate as a barrier to people's participation in sport or physical activity. So this is really connected to the broad theme of empathy that we've really highlighted during this webinar series. We need to put ourselves in the position of the participant and really think about what their needs are. And remember that people want to feel as though they belong. So it's important we tailor our opportunities accordingly and ensure that everyone feels included both physically and socially as well.
Every time I put on exercise pants, I feel embarrassed. I'm not overly comfortable in my own skin. I used to have lots of time to run around and do exercise when I was younger, and I think as a busy working mum with kids, you get a bit time poor and you do forget about yourself. It's just the adrenaline, I suppose, and the accomplishment of feeling, you know what, I did it. Everything hurts, my entire body hurts, my knees hurt, my arms hurt, my back hurt. But it's just that feeling that you've had a really good sweat and you think, I've done something for me today. I haven't just got in the car and been a taxi, I haven't worked all day, I haven't done the groceries, I've done something for me. That's what makes me keep doing it.
So why is confidence so important? Hi, my name is Paul, and in my time as a sport and exercise psychologist for over 15 years, I've learned that confidence essentially drives our behaviour. So why might confidence be down in someone returning to sport after a significant break? The more you do something, the more confident you will become with that activity. Repetition builds confidence. So it makes sense that time away from something tends to reduce confidence. This happens in any setting. Very experienced presenters who haven't presented for a while will become less confident about presenting. And it is definitely the case in sports settings. Just about every athlete I've ever worked with has stated that good preparation builds confidence. So if someone has been away from sport for a while, we would expect that they would be less confident with some aspect of their sport or their role within sport. So what impact might reduced confidence have? Confidence drives behaviour. So what tends to happen when people start to lose confidence in something is they're less likely to undertake that activity in the first place. We tend to avoid things we are not confident about. If we have to have an awkward conversation with people, we will avoid that because we're not confident about it. And if we do engage in things that we're less likely to try new things. People tend to become very self-conscious about making mistakes. Less confident people are less likely to make attempts to overcome barriers. And as you can imagine, there are quite a few barriers when returning to sport after a significant break. People might feel like they don't have the time. They've developed new routines since being away from sport. So they have to form new habits, and this can take time, and confidence helps. They might also have to overcome muscle soreness or small injuries, and they might be fatigued. These are all significant barriers to returning to sport where confidence can help. And when we're not confident about something, we tend to enjoy it less and become less motivated. So how do we go about increasing confidence? Fortunately, research has provided a nice, clear roadmap for increasing confidence that goes something like this. The best way to increase confidence is to focus on people's previous accomplishments and performances. So this can involve getting people to reflect on what they were doing in their sport or at training prior to their break. People tend to believe, if I've done it before, I can do it again. And introduce tasks at training gradually. So it's very challenging and achievable at the same time, so people can get a few easy wins under their belts. This builds confidence. And give people permission to start off slowly. Just ease back into things, with the message that we are doing this to avoid risk of injury rather than because people are unfit. People will tend to feel okay when it is framed in this way. Another method for increasing confidence is focusing on people's personal abilities. Asking people about how they were able to get to their level of participation, fitness, and skills prior to their break. Saying things like, "You seem like a very determined person," or "You seem to pick things up very quickly." How can these things help you now as you're returning to sport? Another thing that's important when someone is returning after a significant break, and I really emphasize this one, and that is to normalize mistakes. Being upfront, saying everyone gets a bit rusty after a long break, and share a story or example that people can relate to that illustrates this. A third one is making sure you deliver plenty of true, positive feedback to people and make it as specific as possible. This builds confidence. So rather than just saying great job or good work, say clean finishing, Elisa, excellent passing, Chloe, great form, Jenny. A fourth one is if people get more confident from seeing other people they relate to successfully returning from a break. If they see other people like themselves doing it, they think, I can do it. This is why group rehab works. Injured athletes will often recover quicker when rehabbing with other injured players. Improvement in a group can become contagious. And finally, it's about how we interpret our physiology. A lot of people interpret increased arousal or butterflies in their stomach as a sign that they're scared and anxious. And this can be a major barrier to people trying new things or persisting when things get difficult. Once again, normalise it. Ask people, put up your hand if you've never been nervous about anything. You won't see many hands go up. Or you might say, we all get nervous, right? Who was a bit nervous about coming here tonight after a long break? When people see others put up their hand, they feel much better about it. And it can even be about learning to embrace this feeling in your stomach. Elise Perry, who has represented Australia in 2 sports, says that these butterflies, which she labels as feeling of excitement, is a reason why she loves playing sport.
When the water is dead, so there's no waves or anything to help you push you along, when it's dead like that, it just feels like you're in mud. It doesn't feel like you're getting anywhere, but you just have to keep digging. Every paddle we do, that's a huge achievement. For me it is. I am very family orientated, so to have a team, they then become your family. You know, they'll encourage you, saying good timing, you're doing well, always pepping each other up. First, it's just getting out there, getting warmed up, and then once we pick up, it's like you're flying. It's just so smooth, it's calming. You're just looking towards the horizon, and once we get that stride, that's when you fly.
Thanks for listening to our webinar today. If you would like any more support on how you can build confidence in your club or engage different types of people, you could go to the VicHealth Doing Sport Differently website, where you can find case studies of how clubs have implemented new programs into their clubs. Or you could go to the Centre for Sport and Social Impact LinkedIn website, or send us an email, or you could go to the Vicsport website. Thanks again.